Today we're having a look at question 11 from the 2014 past paper. It's another Life on Earth question. So question 11, during a woodland survey, a group of students measured some abiotic factors, that's non-living factors. The readings they took included the temperature of the soil and the air. Name one abiotic factor other than temperature which they could have measured in the woodland and describe the method of measuring this factor. So it's 2 points. One for mentioning the abiotic factor and one for telling us how they measured it. Now what the marking scheme was looking for was a named abiotic factor, so for example moisture, pH, or light intensity. 1 mark for that. If you pick temperature, you don't get the marks because it says in the question apart from temperature. Then the next bit, you had to describe the method and the instrument, so something like stick the probe of the pH meter into the soil. The answer's got to relate to a woodland, and the name of the instrument alone is not enough. You have to say how you use it. So if you're using a light meter, you have to say, well, you turn light meter on, you make sure it's pointing up the way, you make sure your shadow's not falling on the sensor. So 2 marks, one for saying what one you're going to measure, second mark for saying how you're going to measure it. Right, next question, part B. During the survey, the students sampled the leaf litter, that just means dead leaves that are lying on the ground, in the woodland using pitfall traps. That's a wee tub that you put in the ground, creepy crawlies fall in, you can check them later. However, when they checked the pitfall traps 4 days after setting them up, the students discovered that they were all empty. Describe an error the students might have made which would explain why there were no invertebrates in the traps. Only 1 mark for this one. And what the SQ were looking for is they left the traps too long, or the traps were too high above the soil, or the traps weren't camouflaged, or the traps are too shallow. Any one of those are okay. The additional guidance says you've got to identify the error the students made, not just the reason why they're empty, so you say what they did wrong. And not acceptable was use of the term lid, because a lid seals something and you don't want to seal the trap. You can cover it with a leaf to make sure it doesn't get rain into it and birds can't eat the things, but it's not a lid. Right, next one. So they went back, they fixed it, and they got some numbers. So the error was corrected, and the students set out the pitfall traps once again. The table below shows the types of invertebrates and numbers that they found. So they've got woodlice, beetles, slugs, spiders, snails, and the number found was 35, 30, 0, 13, 15. And then they've got one of those circles with wee tick marks around it, so you can make up a pie chart. Now, if you add up the number of things that they caught, you will find that it adds up to 100. 35, 20, 13, 15 adds up to 100. And that means that each tick mark around the side of it, there's 20 of those, each one of those is worth 5. So the 35, that would need to go around 7 tick marks, and then you have to put a line from the centre of the circle to the tick mark. It's got to touch the centre, it's got to touch the tick. For the 15 it would be 3. Slugs, you don't put slugs on because there were no slugs. So no segment for slugs, and don't put in a label for slugs. And let's see what the marking scheme says. So the marking scheme says there's 2 marks. It's 1 for getting the segments the right size and 1 for putting the labels in properly. So you can label it, get the segments all wrong, and you still get a mark. So 1 mark for appropriate size sections. The segments don't need to be in order. And 1 mark for labels. Labels can be given if the sections are mark for labels can be given if the sections are incorrect, but proportions correct. Then what else have we got? Pie chart is complete, but slugs are labelled on it, you don't get the mark. So don't put a slug label on because there are no slugs. Finally, there's one more question in this bit. The students saw a large number of butterflies in the woodland. Give a reason why no butterflies were collected with the other invertebrates. That's just creepy crawlies. Okay, and what they're looking for there is they flew away. Now, they would not accept butterflies have wings. That doesn't tell you why they're not in the tub. That just tells you butterflies have wings. You have to say that the butterflies flew away, and that's why there aren't any in the sample tray. And that was how to answer that question.